gives us time to do that if we want to act on April 13th. And the chief and I discussed it with his staff. And 4 years ago, believe it or not, there was a group hired out of Connecticut by the name of Holsworth and Pelton. I saved this study, believe it or not, all right? And it really is loaded with information, but they are, quote, very knowledgeable in this area. I asked the chief if he wanted me to contact them, and I did, all right? And he got back to me late Friday with an email. And it is nice to know that he liked the RFP the way it was written, all right? He had a couple of minor comments, but basically he liked it. And I asked him if we needed him to do a review, give us his opinion on the two bids, what he would do. And there's two options. One, he can come up here and visit us, and of course he won't do that for nothing. He wants $2,300, which isn't going to happen. The other one is that we could fax him the bids, he'll do a teleconference, and give us his thoughts about $1,000. So before the supervisor can do anything, or before I can get back to him, the board has to decide if they want to use that option. You wouldn't be bound by it, but you would be getting an outside concern who has some knowledge of the issues on the ambulance. So that's a decision, and you've got to decide if you want to exercise it tonight, because those bids are supposed to be in by next Wednesday. He has a window, I believe, the 8th, and another day might be the 10th. So I throw that out there. I don't know what your thoughts are. But I can tell you this, the supervisor is not going to take any action unless you want to. If you don't, that's fine. But I did discuss it with the chief, and we've already heard some comments about being impartial and fair. Who's going to make that determination? So it's a question that I think has to be answered, and I guess I would ask, how does the board feel about it?
I might as well go first, I guess, if you're asking. My first thought, because I had no knowledge of this at all until just now, I think each and every municipality is unique in its own makeup and structure. I don't think we should be going outside of our municipality to ask for opinions. And it's something you got to bring forward, Mr. Godlewski, I understand that. But my opinion is I don't think we should need to do that. I don't think we should need to spend money. And like I said, each municipality is totally unique, and having to do it long distance by faxing it to him or emailing it to him, and he doesn't understand our situation here. I'm against it. That's how I feel.
I don't know. I got to think about it.
I agree with Matt. I think we should think about it, talk about it, and actually all that they will do is just give us some advice.
They're going to give us their opinion on the bids that are received. And it's unfortunate that Mr. Collier wasn't here 4 years ago, or Mr. Martin, but if you read this report, he knows our business. Take my word for it. There was 4 options in here that were bantered around for a year. And it isn't that, I mean, they brought him in from outside because he was, quote, an expert in this field. So I just want you, if you want to review that, it's up to you. But that is loaded with information, cost. And all we're saying is that there's 2 RFPs, all right? If you give it an initial review, what are your thoughts? I mean, that's what they do for a living. This guy goes all over the Northeast, okay?
I'm sure he does.
And I'm not an expert, and I guess the question is going to be, who's going to review those bids and make that determination as who gets what?
Maybe this should have been brought up in open forum, maybe it should have come up in the agenda meeting.
Well, but I just.
First, just
but
where we had a chance to
Wayne,
knock it around a little
I
bit.
just found out on Friday
Yeah, I
night,
understand.
and I talked to the chief
Yeah.
late this morning to go over it with him.
Yeah, we could talk about that anyway. It isn't something
Well, just
that
remember,
happened this minute.
yeah, but the board does not meet again, and you cannot allocate the money unless the board passes a resolution. That's the issue here. We do not meet again until April 13th, okay? And we've already had this special meeting, all right? And I doubt if we're gonna have another one. So that's what I'm saying,
And when are the bids coming in?
the bids will be in next Wednesday. And we in the bid indicated that we would have a decision by April 13th because the board at the last meeting wanted to move forward, and we did. We told them we would have those bids out for the purpose of acting on those bids by April 13th because of the ALS revenue issue. Now, like I'm saying, I had that discussion with the chief. We talked again late this morning. So, I mean, if the board doesn't want to do it, it doesn't bother me. But all I'm saying is, it might be the cheapest $1,000 you ever spent.
As far as the ALS issue goes, we just got some information tonight that we have to look at, have our attorneys look at as far as ALS billing. Because this, I don't know, unless some members of the board were aware of this. I was never aware that Mr. Koza, brought this information forward. I was never aware that this was even written in the law anywhere. So I think that's another issue. I think that's got to be discussed with our attorneys and see how they feel about this.
Whatever the board wants to do. I only threw that out, like I said, because there's not another meeting and
Well,
Still have to do a contract.
I don't know, like you said, we can discuss it probably. And if we do make a decision on that, do we have to have another meeting to do that? Or can we just vote on it ourselves?
it's called open meeting law. You have to have a meeting to pass a resolution. So,
We don't have the whole panel here tonight.
I
so-
can't help that. I'm just saying those are the facts. And if you don't want to do it, you won't hurt my feelings. I'm just giving you that option based on the discussion I had with the chief. That's all I'm telling you.
How do you feel about it, Matt?
I mean, I just don't know what kind of report you're gonna get. Is it just gonna be numbers based? Because I don't know if that's worth $1,000. I think it's gonna be pretty self-explanatory when you get the bids. Is it gonna be, does he understand the nuances of where we are now rather than 4 years ago? Does he understand? I just don't understand what are you getting for $1,000? Just his recommendation, but based on what? If it's just how much it's gonna
Well, you're
the
talking
revenue
about,
to the town, I don't think. Now, what do you, Bob? Did you? Excuse me, Mr. Earlsey. What do you gather that he's going to report to us? I mean,
What he's
his
going
final.
to do is basically do an overall review of the two bids that are received, all right? And in his professional opinion, not mine, not yours, not Wayne's or Frank's, he's going to basically say, you put a bid spec together. Which one of these bids best meets that criteria? And then he'll give you an opinion. And opinions are like a lot of things. You don't have to agree with it. Okay? All I'm saying is that, in my discussions with the chief, we kicked around who's going to make the determination in that bid spec. Because I'll tell you, I did not write the bid spec. I can guarantee you that.
It seems like he would be judging the lower spec limit of the spec when I think the tough questions are going to be what's beyond what the spec calls for and how we have to weigh it. I think that's going to be the tough. I mean, if he just goes to the letter of the spec, and the spec's written, each ambulance service provider that bids doesn't meet the spec, I think we'll know it.
Well,
Right? I mean,
all I'm saying is because I've read the spec, and believe me, there's some things that I do understand, but there's a lot of things I don't. And all I'm saying is that in my discussions with the chief, when we finalized that bid package, the question came up, you know, who's going to make that determination? And, you know, the board, yes, will make the final decision, that's true. No question about that. Right? But in getting to that decision, how do you make an informed decision? I mean, I don't drive an ambulance, I'm not an EMS, all right? I'm not a paramedic, and I don't pretend to be. You know? And I know it's a very, very different line of work.
I think once we do get our information back from whoever is going to send in the bid packet, that it's going to require more than just an hour's meeting to sit down and try to sort this out and make sure we're doing the right thing, because it's a very important decision we're making. And I think some of that's going to have to fall back on some of the experts. We have to talk to them. I think it's going to require maybe a work session with the board and whoever we bring in to on a local basis, our own people here, to maybe, including the chief, we're talking to the whole board, the chief of police, and you know, whoever else we deem necessary that's going to be able to help us make an educated decision. Because we're, you know, I have a little experience there, but it's been a long time for me. And so I know the rest of the board, I understand that we all have our things that we're, you know, that we have some more knowledge of than the other person, because that's what we did for a living. But when it becomes time to make that decision, I like to ask questions. And so I think we get a hold of people that can give us the answers, and then we do the best we can. We make the right decision for the community.
So if we want to get him involved down the road before we make that decision?
Bob, I don't know,
Okay.
I'm not, you know,
Well, I'm just saying, because April 13th.
it's coming quick, but maybe I know, and I understand why we're trying to rush this thing, but I'm a little leery of rushing because it's so important. But I understand what we're doing, and we want to recoup the money as much as possible with the ALS fees, and that's what we've been saying for months. But I don't want to make the wrong decision because we don't wait 48 hours. I mean, we're getting close now. We're close to where we have to make it.
Oh, yeah, well,
But I'd say after we get after we get the contracts, we let our attorneys look at it first, let them go over it, let them study it, and then if we have questions, we bring in the appropriate people. Something may have to be explained. Maybe one of the ambulance services that do put in a bid, there'll be something that we have to ask a question about to clarify some of the things that we may not understand because it's not our business. So, I hope we can get this done by the 13th, but, well, I don't know.
Well, I'm just.
It's kind of
saying,
important, so.
Well, that was the target date.
Yeah, I understand
You know,
that.
when we went forward with it,
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, and all we're saying is to try and meet that date, what the board wanted.
Yeah,
Okay, so, and you're right, if the board doesn't want to act on the 13th, that's the board's
Right,
decision.
well, it just went out, the package just went out yesterday or the day
Yeah.
before,
Yeah, but
so, I mean, it's a turnaround time is quick, so.
Oh, it's,
It's so, I don't think we're gonna make the 13th, I'd like to think we could, but to make the proper decision, we have to ask the right questions, and to ask the right questions, we have to get the bid packets back, so one thing's gonna follow another,
so that doesn't mean this option, we're just not going to exercise it now.
that's all. We can talk about it.
All right.
So actually, what you're saying is, get the bid. And
That's the next step.
if you feel there's confusion to you, or you
Or
have a
questions.
problem with them,
Sure.
then you wanna spend $1,000 and wait to see what they say,
Maybe,
and
maybe
is
that's the
that what
answer.
you're saying?
Maybe that's the answer at that point. But I think the first thing we do is, the stuff that was brought forward tonight as far as information packet from Mr. Koza, we give that to our attorney and let him research that and find out what that's all about. So we know what grounds we are with that. That's the first step. Second step is we get the packets in. Third step is we scrutinize the packets, we ask the proper questions, and hopefully make the decision as soon as possible to make the right decision. We waited so long now, and I don't think another few days or a week or whatever, because this is so important, is going to make any difference. That's just how I feel. I'm only one board member, but that's how I feel.
Not a problem for me.
No,